Maestro Roberto Minczuk joins me. Happy to talk about what's coming up next season, and it seems like it's an incredible season, starting right off with one of the great romantic composers, Tchaikovsky.
Always great to talk to you, Brent. Thank you for having me here. And opening the season with Tchaikovsky is a sure bet for a great concert, great program, and huge success. Tchaikovsky is one of these composers that we love to perform, no matter how many times we play the Fourth Symphony or the Violin Concerto, two masterpieces that we put together for this program. The Fourth Symphony is just, it starts out so dramatic. That first movement is one of the most dramatic movements in the symphonic repertoire. The second movement, with solos of oboe starting the movement and then bassoon closing the movement, and also in that kind of melancholic mood. It's so beautiful, just beautiful melodies. Tchaikovsky once said that his problem was that he had too many musical ideas. There were too many themes that came to his mind, and he couldn't possibly use all of them. So you feel that in the Fourth Symphony, this melody of the second movement is just heartbreaking. And then all of a sudden he changed it completely. The third movement, it's like a scherzo that starts with a pizzicato in the strings, where the musicians don't use the bow, they use their fingers to pluck the strings, and you create this sound almost like the balalaika sound from the Russian folk tradition.
And then it goes back and forth between that and this kind of dancing of winds and brass and back and forth. And then the final movement, once again, unbelievable, powerful brass.
Absolutely. And the last movement is so virtuosistic. The orchestra plays so many notes, running scales up and down, strings and woodwinds, and the brass playing always that beautiful kind of march, which is very heroic and very, very exciting.
So an opening concert with one of the great romantic composers, Tchaikovsky, and then the next month is the finals of the Olga Kern International Piano Competition. So a chance to see three great rising stars in concertos. I don't know how many contestants we'll have, but the last competition had a terrific caliber of contestants from all over the world.
Always very exciting to watch a piano competition or any musical competition, but the Olga Kern International Competition has become now one of the most important ones in the country. So we are attracting people from all over the world for this competition, and I'm happy I'm going to have a chance to conduct the finals for it this time around, and it's always very, very exciting. It's amazing to see how much talent is out there, in several different countries, and they all are eager to come to the United States and make a name for themselves here in America. So it's always very exciting to receive these great talents from all over.
And for audiences, it's a chance to see all the rounds of the competition, and then the finals are held at Popejoy Hall as one of the classics concerts. Later the same month, two of my favorite composers, Mendelssohn's Violin Concerto and Brahms' Final Symphony, his Symphony No. 4.
Well, Mendelssohn is really, I think he's one of the most underrated composers there is. His music is so incredible. He was as prolific and almost had the same kind of talent as Mozart. He started writing at a very young age, and he wrote so many beautiful symphonies and concertos and oratorios, and also died at a very, very young age, in his 30s. So his Violin Concerto is really one of the classic concertos, one of the really beautiful pieces. And Brahms was a big fan of Mendelssohn. He was much influenced by Mendelssohn's music. So it's wonderful to pair these two composers together. The Fourth Symphony is just it's a symphony that is so beautiful, so dramatic. It really brings all of the best of Brahms you find in his Fourth Symphony. The intelligence, how he really has such command of the form of the symphony, and how he writes so beautifully for each instrument in the orchestra. It's so interesting when you perform Brahms, because every musician in the orchestra at all times thinks that they have the most important part because it's so beautifully written. The main melody and the accompaniment sounds as beautiful as the melodies. So it's always it's a challenge to balance, because everybody thinks they're the most important part in the Brahms, but it makes it such a great experience to play and to listen to a Brahms work.
In January, once again, a fundraising special that includes Mozart, a couple of symphonies and an overture, but also brings back the great guitarist Jason Villot, not only playing the Adagio from the Concierto de Aranjuez, which is one of the most gorgeous pieces ever written, but also a new work that was written for him, a guitar concerto by Jonathan Leshnov.
Leshnov is really an outstanding composer. So I'm always happy when we're able to bring contemporary music, but good contemporary music, to our audience. And I have the experience of premiering another piece of Leshnov years ago in Philadelphia, an oratorio that he wrote beautifully. And so I'm very much looking forward to the guitar concerto, which will also be a world premiere.
I don't think we hear the Elgar Cello Concerto enough. It's one of the truly great instrumental works and one of the greatest concertos for that instrument, featuring a Romanian cellist, Andrei Ionita, who won the Tchaikovsky competition in 2015, and on the same program, Mahler's Symphony No. 7. And I know Mahler is a particular favorite of yours.
Absolutely. Well, the cello is one of the most beautiful instruments. And in a piece written by Elgar, this concerto is a concerto that expresses all of the tragedy and the sadness after World War I. And so it's a very meaningful, very deep work for cello. And with that, we have Mahler's Seventh Symphony, which is going to be the very first time that the New Mexico Philharmonic performs this great work. Mahler wrote 9 symphonies, and they are all the monumental symphonies, among really the most difficult, the most demanding, the largest symphonic works in history. So number 7 is particularly a very dramatic piece, very challenging for everyone, for the conductor, for all of the sections, and really shows the orchestra, the virtuosity, the grandeur of a symphony orchestra. So we're very excited to be bringing to our audience Mahler's Symphony No. 7 for the first time.
In March, another all-Russian program, the violinist Yunshin Song plays Shostakovich Violin Concerto No. 1, and then selections from perhaps some of the most gorgeous. I mean, I always say this, but the music from Prokofiev's Romeo and Juliet is everything. It's beautifully orchestrated. It uses the orchestra well. It lays well on the ears, and it touches your heart.
Absolutely. I agree with you. Prokofiev's music in Romeo and Juliet has everything, and he's so witty. He's full of humor. I mean, within this tragic, romantic work, there's always a touch of sensitivity, and how he describes the young Juliet, the teenager Juliet, and with such a delicate orchestration and beautiful lines for so many instruments. And at the same time, when he's describing Thibaut's death, it's so dramatic. so powerful, so dark, so bloody. So it goes from various extremes, making this one of the greatest ballet music ever composed. And of course, Shostakovich's violin concerto is one of the most powerful concertos for violin. He really explores all of the capabilities of the violin, and even create sounds that were not heard of before. So this program is going to be really uplifting and very, very impressive from beginning to the end.
April brings back Olga Kern for another performance, always a favorite of New Mexicans and a powerful, powerful pianist. And also on the same program, Ravel's Daphnis et Chloe. Again, a terrific piece to show off all the members of the orchestra.
Daphnis and Chloe is really, it's probably one of the most incredible musical works of that period that we call the impressionistic period of French music with Debussy and Ravel. But Ravel really creates so many wonderful colors with this huge orchestration. And it's, has beautiful melodies, has so many virtuosistic passages, has incredible rhythms that really creates such excitement, without ever losing the elegance, the transparency, and the beauty of the music of that time produced in Paris. So we're very happy to be able to conclude our season with such a masterpiece.
Actually, that doesn't conclude the season, believe it or not, because if Tchaikovsky and a double of Tchaikovsky was a way to start it, then maybe one of the only ways to end it would be with one of the great, most popular works of the 20th century, Orff's Carmina Burana. This thing, Orff was well known as an educator and for his percussion method. This was the one piece he wrote after which he tore up everything else. He said, my composition starts again here, and he never equaled it again. It's a phenomenally powerful piece.
Carl Orff is one of these composers that he didn't need to compose anything else besides Carmina Burana. It has become such an iconic work, even outside the concert hall, in film, in advertisements. It has been used in video games. So Carmina is one of these immediately recognizable tunes. And it remains very powerful to this day. People love to listen. We love to perform it. I mean, there's something about it. He creates in this kind of minimalistic methods that he uses to compose it. But at the same time, he's able to almost captivate the orchestra, hypnotizing everyone through the repetitions of the verses that he uses in the musical themes, in the rhythmic patterns that he uses with his magnificent work. So we're looking forward to bringing back to Albuquerque Carmina Burana for the end of our season.
Maestro, it has been such a pleasure having you around for the Music with the Maestro series this season. Next season looks like it's terrific, and we look forward to starting these shows again in the fall.
Well, thank you again. Always a pleasure to be here, and looking forward to many more interviews and talks.